So we're standing in beautiful Tyndale Park in Barrie. I love this park, and this place has some real history for my guest. I finally get to talk to you, Christina. So great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Christina, tell me, why is this park so special to you?
This park is where I started some of my group classes after I became a certified trainer. And we hold like a lot of meetings and stuff here because it's quaint and it's nice scenery.
Yeah, it's fun because you've got the whole park down there, and then it's kind of zen down here, a little more quiet.
Yeah.
So, Christina, tell me a little bit here, because there's a lot of stuff I want to cover with you, and again, we were supposed to do this show a few years ago, and a lot of things have changed, and it makes it actually a little more exciting now. Where are you from?
Barrie.
Yay.
Beautiful Barrie. Yes.
And what was that like? Where'd you go to school?
I went to school at St. Marguerite de Ville when it was first being built, so local, and then my high school I went to was St. Joe's.
You went to St. Joe's?
I did go to St. Joe's.
I'm a St. Joe's alumni too.
Yes.
Crazy. So, as you went through public school and high school, you had some challenges then, or is that when things kind of started to happen for you, where you started to realize that maybe, there was maybe bullying, shaming, and all that kind of stuff was happening? Take us there.
So I started in elementary school. I started having some issues. I was very super shy. I wouldn't talk to anybody. They had I have a twin brother, and they had to separate us because we were too dependent on each other. We only talked to each other. We only played with each other. Like it was too dependent. So they separated us, and I became very shy and very withdrawn from people. And as I grew up, I ended up having a lot of weight issues. So by the time I hit high school, I was already way over 300 pounds. I was 15 when I was 380 to be exact, so almost 400 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's when a lot of the bullying started entering high school rather than just elementary school, because I just dwelled with the other kids. And the school that I went to from when I was in kindergarten till grade 8 were all the same people. So they didn't overly look at me too different, but in high school it was a whole new crew, it was a whole new
cliques,
idea.
Right? The whole clique thing, right? So then what was that like for you to make friends? Did you have many friends in high school, or were you feeling kind of segregated?
I didn't really have a lot of friends, only because I didn't really put myself out there to have friends because I was very shy. And judging by the atmosphere, like I'd walk down the hallway, people would yell whale, people tell me to lose weight all the time. Like it was very, I hated going to school.
Yeah.
So out of 5 days, I maybe went 2 or 3 times, if that. It's hard to explain. Like I tried to be a part of the choir, stuff that I liked, and then I just would withdraw because I would just get like
close the doors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's tough, because there you are in this place where you're trying to fit in high school. People always say, oh, kids are cruel. Kids are wicked.
They are.
They can be. There's a lot of loving kids, don't get me wrong, but there are kids who can just be wicked. They'll say things under their breath even.
Yeah,
the fact that they're even thinking it, or they want to fit in with their cliques, and so their job is to kind of make your life hell, even though you've done nothing wrong, and you're actually trying to fit in. There you are trying to get into choir and do things you enjoy, and you kind of pull back from pleasure. You pull back from being happy.
Yep.
And that sucks.
Yeah, it was rough. I remember I wouldn't eat lunch in the cafeteria, and I would go in the washroom and try and eat food, or I just wouldn't eat all day. And then I would go home and just binge eat. So that's where a lot of my patterns growing up into an adult occurred. I remember I was in the cafeteria once because I had to go get my brother. I don't remember what it was. My mom was delivering a message through me, and I had to go tell my brother. And I walked into the cafeteria, and this guy got everybody's attention and yelled about my weight and said, "Here comes your fat sister." And I just started crying, and I ran out of the cafeteria, and I never stepped. I wasn't even eating food. So I'm like, how can you even judge me? I'm just standing here trying to talk to my brother. And then there was someone in the hallway who saw me crying, and he's like, "Why are you crying? Let's go." So he walked into the cafeteria, and he made everybody stop and apologize to me. And that person to me was like a hero, because.
And who was this?
It was a grade 12. He was the one that was always respected by everybody. So for him to even notice that I was upset and even care, it was a huge deal to me, because the average Joe at school would yell, like wail in the hallway, tell me to lose weight, like tell me to stop eating. Like it was always a constant battle every time I stepped foot into the school. So for someone, to me, who was held so high in respect by everybody else, to do that for me, that was my lifestyle type of hero. And that's something I've never forgot. It's been like a million years later.
That's awesome. I love that. Whoever he is, I hope he remembers and maybe sees this interview and remembers how much he's affected your life, because that's beautiful.
I ran into him maybe like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I reintroduced myself, and I told him the story. He's like, "I remember that." I was like, "Thank you." I'm like, "You literally changed my life. Thank you."
That's awesome. I'm glad you did that.
Very cool.
So at what point then, after high school, you continue on in life, you've still struggled with your weight. there was a point then at something where you decided that you needed to make a change, and you did this body transformation challenge. Yes. Tell me about the build up to that, or how you even remotely heard of that, where you got the information on it, or where you just chose to accept that this is where you were going.
Okay, so when I was 15 at my 380, I ended up being a part of the choir for a short time, and we went to Italy.
Wow.
So what happened in Italy was, that's like the root of my family. My family's right from Italy. I'm firstborn Canadian.
Okay.
So my family was over the moon excited for me to go. They gave me money for a new wardrobe, like they paid for my trip, everything was great. And then when I got there, I was limited because we had a not a tour bus, but a bus that brought us places, but we had to walk everywhere. And for someone who their joints are barely even developed at 15 years old to be 400 pounds, I couldn't walk.
Cobblestone roads, all that sort of stuff.
So some of the stuff, I remember there was one specific day we were in Rome, and I wanted to see, this is the reason I went to the trip, and you're not allowed to stay back at the hotel, but they had to make an exception because I was bedridden. At 15 years old, I couldn't physically get out of my bed because of the weight on my knees and my feet. So I missed out a whole day's trip, and that was the one thing I wanted to see. So that was literally my turning point. And I saw pictures before, and I'm like, oh, I am actually like 3 times the size of my fellow student. And before I didn't understand, because I'm just a kid, I'm not looking at myself, I'm not judging myself. All of a sudden I just have limitations. How come I can't go and walk like the other kids? So that was definitely my turning point. And then when I came home, my mom tried to send me to nutritionists. I tried everything, it didn't work. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do what's gonna work for me. And I started lifting weights, I started being more active. Taebo.
I remember the Taebo boxing,
So the VHS tape, they had like a 5-minute workout, which actually was 8 minutes. Like, who lied to me? But I said, before I go to bed, because at this time I wasn't a morning person. So I said, every night before I go to bed, I'm gonna do this 8-minute, 8-minute Taebo video. And that's kind of where I started, and I could barely even march in a spot, but I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. If I have to stop, I don't care. It's Billy Blanks from the start to the finish. So literally, like, I created my own transformation. I had to see what worked and what didn't work.
That's really awesome. And it's funny because I think a lot of people need to understand the people who do the bullying are never very smart. They're just not, and we know that, we can accept that. But the people who've been bullied, the people who have been shamed, are so wise because they're the ones who are looking the most deep inside. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it's depression and hating themselves and a lot of bad things. But when you have that aha moment, you are so far beyond just emotionally, mentally, spiritually than those people who shamed you, which is, it's a wonderful gift in disguise, right? So you've got this incredible passion now for working out and doing your Billy Blanks 8-minute, supposed to be 5-minute video, and life is changing for you. At what point do you realize that you're either going to get a trainer or you want to be a trainer and you're going to do this transformation thing? Because I saw the photos, and we're going to post some of those photos on here. Those photos were absolutely amazing because there you are up on this stage. Let's talk about the build up into accepting that challenge. What was that like?
So I think during the change, so I went through, I moved to the Caribbean for a year on an island, and I'm like, it was interesting. It wasn't like in a tourist area. So I couldn't go out and buy dumbbells, and I wanted to start exercising. So I started literally picking up rocks. I bought a scale, cost me a
Gilligan's
fortune.
Island, you got coconuts and rocks.
Right, so I picked up rocks, and I didn't know how much they weighed, but I wanted an idea. And I'd like go on YouTube, because I did bring my laptop with me, and I, literally from the coconut tree, I got internet wired, but I had to do it right in the morning when I woke up, after the kids went to school, before they got home. Else, because you don't have like your own household like data usage, you share it with the entire town. So
that's a draw.
Yeah, so after school, like, it was very slow because all the kids who had computers were on computers. So I would download little like workout clips, and then I would weigh myself with the rocks to see how much the rocks weighed, and then I would paint the rock. So anyway, I started literally.
Cool.
So I'm like, this is an 8-pound rock, this is a 10-pound rock, and they were color coded. Else it would cost you like $50 for one 3-pound dumbbell if you can find it. So it was a challenge.
Rocks are free.
Yeah, but rocks are free. So whatever, as long as teamwork makes the dream work, if you can think of it, you can do it, right? So then I started losing more weight.
Great quote,
Thank you. So I started losing more weight, and then I was flying back and forth to Canada to visit my family and going back to the Caribbean. And every time I would land, I would go to a gym, because to me, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a gym here, thank you. So I would actually physically go to one. But then people were like, I want to work out with you. How did you lose weight? I want to eat what you're eating. So a lot of the times people were coming to me and asking me for advice.
Yeah.
But I come from a business family, so the first thing I did was pick up the phone and call my mom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do. People want to train with me. Like, what happens if someone gets hurt, or what if they eat the wrong thing, or what if they're not happy? Like, all these what ifs. And she's like, it sounds like you need to be certified, and it sounds like you need to get insurance. I'm like, oh no, like I had a bad go with someone who had to do like a pre-screening at a gym.
Yeah.
And they told me I needed to sell my house because I needed to lose weight more than a roof over my head. And I was like 18 or 19 years old. It was crazy.
Wow.
So to me, I didn't like personal trainers. I never wanted to be a personal trainer because of stigma in my brain. So I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna help people, I'm gonna be a personal trainer. So then I ended up doing my certifications for it. I got insured, and then I started a business.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I look at personal trainers once in a while online, and some of them really make me laugh because they'll do 15, 20 posts a day that are very similar to the 15, 20 posts they did the day before. And they're all about getting likes and comments and sharing.
Yeah.
But Instagram to me is like having likes on Instagram and followers on Instagram is like having the most money in Monopoly. It doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
It's not real unless you're some real elite, 3-4 time Canadian champion or whatever, and sponsors are paying you.
Yeah.
But even then, you're not making a whole lot in that sort of stuff. It's the inspiring where you can make some dough and make a
Yeah.
business out of it. And that's that aspect of meal plans and helping people work out and understand their bodies a little more.
Yep,
right?
totally.
So when you now are in this point of living this, you're not just going to some course on a weekend and suddenly telling everybody you're certified.
Yeah.
You're doing
Big difference.
You're doing this from experience and from some really deep places.
Yeah.
When did you decide to do the competition?
So I decided to do the competition, I'd say early 2000, maybe 2011, 12 maybe.
Okay, yeah.
And I saw the WBFF.
Yeah.
The WBFF is like the most ritzy, glamorous.
It's
not
pretty.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like the Victoria's Secret of fashion. It's well known all over the world.
Yeah, fitness peacocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. So I saw that and I'm like, I'm gonna do Worlds. And I remember telling somebody, and I'm like, I'm gonna do another trainer actually, and just in passing, I'm like, I'm gonna do Worlds. And they're like, you have to qualify, you have to compete. Like, it's not just weight loss, it's not just everyday life. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I know, and I'm gonna do it.
Sure.
And they're like, okay. Literally took me 2 years to get to that stage, but I qualified in Montreal.
Cool.
So I did a smaller show in Toronto.
Yeah.
And then I got used to being on stage like pretty much more than half naked.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm like, okay, I do enjoy this. So then I hooked up with the WBFF.
Yeah.
So I did my first show in Montreal. I qualified to compete in Vegas.
Yeah.
I cried. I stepped on stage and I didn't know how people would judge my transformation.
Sure.
And literally the judges, the audience, there was like thousands of people there. It was on pay-per-view as well. They just stood up and I had a standing ovation.
You did?
And I did. And I
Awesome.
just started like crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm winning. I'm qualifying to go to Vegas. Like
Awesome.
this is a far cry from the girl that used to cry in the bathroom because people are calling her whale and I
Different
never had any
tiers.
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is it. This is what I lived for. This is a 2-year goal.
Very
so
cool.
yeah, it was awesome.
I love that. That's very spiritual too for you to get there. Now,
At the inside.
well, absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
funny because people look at those shows, and what a lot of people don't understand about those shows is a regional show, for example, they don't test. They don't do any testing on stuff, right? Regional shows, like those local shows, never really get tested on things. So there are a lot of people who might take something to inhibit fat or prevent fat or provoke fat loss and all these different drugs and stuff that are supposed to be
Yeah.
banned, but they'll never be tested. But then they qualify. So there you are doing things naturally. You're going
100%.
through all these incredible changes, and you're on the biggest stage known for that world,
Yeah.
right? The world's. And so you're up there in the most exposed, vulnerable place you can be. You're half dressed, half naked, depends optimistic, pessimistic, right?
Yeah.
Twice as many clothes as you need. So you're standing there and they're judging you. People you've never met before are now judging you on where you started, where you are now, your physique, your posture, your show, your hair flip, whatever,
Yep.
all these wonderful things you have to do, bikini back pose, and you got to do all these things, and you win.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to cry.
Yeah. It was
Right?
amazing.
So how'd you celebrate?
Well, I tried to go out and have half of a burger and half of a poutine, but I couldn't finish it.
Oh.
But I was so excited. So yeah, that's how I celebrated because I did 32 weeks between the two shows
Yeah.
of like gruesome meal prep. The same thing, all 6 meals, the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like no cheat days. It was really
for
rough.
you.
Yeah.
Maintaining's
awesome,
the key,
though.
isn't it, though?
Yeah.
It really is hard.
Totally.
Because I watch people at these shows and they do the after show thing and they're laughing about how they just pounded down, 2 steaks and they went to the Mandarin and then they had 12 donuts after, and all of a sudden you walk by them 2 weeks later and you can't even recognize them from the show because they're ballooned out, because your body's so destroyed and maintaining. You're going to take on everything you eat.
Exactly, especially when someone did a 12-week prep.
Yeah.
And then they've gone from like how they are, and then they've changed just in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Like mine was a 200-pound weight loss.
Yeah.
So that's quite a couple more years than 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So for me to try and eat something, I was like, oh, I wasn't having it. But I do see some of my friends who are competitors, I see them down a whole box of donuts and they do the whole Mandarin thing and they eat everything and then they just balloon after.
Absolutely.
It's tough.
Yeah. So one thing that I love about you going into the trainer world, and now you're a trainer, is the people who get inspired by you. You get to be very empathetic, because it's not like you read a book and you happen to be already kind of in shape and thought you'd tone up and get it. You went through hell.
Yeah.
You went through some depression, some battles, a lot of emotional scarring that led to a really beautiful place now, right?
Yeah.
So what you get to be is you get to be empathetic. And a lot of people don't get to be that honest. But you get to be truly honest because you've been there. And that puts you in a sort of a different category. No offense to other trainers in town, because there's some wonderful trainers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that puts you in a different category as well, especially for specific clientele.
Yeah.
Right? So you go through this battle. This really isn't that long ago that now you're, you kind of are taking on all these wonderful new responsibilities. You kind of disappeared for a little bit, though.
I did. I disappeared
over the last little while.
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years I disappeared. Yeah.
Which it can be really great to turn stuff off, isn't it?
Sometimes yes,
Yeah.
and sometimes no. Again, it was another personal transformation. So I was self-employed for about 5 or 6 years, full-time as a personal trainer running my own business.
Yeah.
I was published in 20 different international publications, magazines, everything. I had the same publicist as Leonardo DiCaprio, Gloria Estefan, in New York. That's how I got into some of the biggest magazines in the fitness industry.
Sure.
So I was excited about that. But then all of a sudden I entered a bad relationship, and then it was actually with a female, and it was kind of frowned upon by some of like my family members, and the feedback I was getting, again, I let people get to my head rather than doing what I wanted to do. In my brain, like people said, oh, you came out, so you put your business on hold. I never really came out of anything. I was always someone who just did whatever I wanted to when I wanted to. Yeah. So I'm like, so now I'm just going to be with this person, and that's just it. Like I never thought I had to explain myself.
When I found out that you had come out of the closet, it was kind of funny, because I had just seen you not long ago with a really good-looking ponytail dude at the gym, and that was who you were hanging out with. And then all of a sudden you kind of disappear, and then it's like, oh, Christina's getting married. I'm like, oh wow, to who? And I find out that you're getting married actually at one point.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah,
Yes.
I was engaged to a
You
girl,
were engaged for a bit, and so that was a really tough spot, and I want to kind of cover that a little bit, because if we'd have done this show 3 years ago, when all this was going on, or 2 years ago, it would have been a very different result, and I'm glad we actually put everything kind of on hold for a while while you were going through some growth and changes. So your mom had a real difficult time with it, as does a lot of parents, really, right? My son once said to me, I told him, hey, that girl's really pretty in your class, and he said, Dad, I don't even know if I'm gay yet. And I said, same rule at home with your sister, no boys in your room, right? And so he kind of laughed, but
that's funny.
We're a different generation, right?
We are, totally.
We still have unaccepting jerks who, there's a difference between accepting and tolerating, right?
Yeah.
Some people can kind of tolerate it, but they don't accept it. Your mom, among many, when you first kind of hear the news, you don't know what to do with this information, and so you push, right? So your mom had a tough time at first.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. What was that like?
It was rough. My mom still, I could tell she still cared and still loved me. It was kind of like, it's interesting because I talked to some of my other LGBT friends, and they're going on, they haven't spoken to their parents in like 15, 20 years. So I'm very, very fortunate that my mom did end up coming around, and more so than anything, like she got me like this pride thing for my car like 2 weeks ago, a matching bracelet with my now girlfriend. Like it was really cool.
Yeah.
But she even did the ribbon cutting for the new Lakeside LGBT downtown.
Awesome.
So it was really good. But before that, it was, I don't want to hear about it. don't talk to me about it, don't bring up her name, don't bring her around.
It's tough for a city councilor, it's tough for people in business, it's tough for all kinds of things because they don't want the other people who might point at them. But what they forget is that this is about you, right? This is not about your mom. This is not about your brother. This isn't about anybody else.
Yeah, it's not going to make the family look bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so kudos to your mom for, patiently learning and understanding and embracing and never stopping loving you.
Yeah.
Right? That's big.
It was huge.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really great.
So I love that she takes part now.
Totally does. But the 3 years when you said I had disappeared, that's primarily the reason why, because I was getting it from all different angles. So at the time I had a very jealous partner, and it was, you're gonna go train female clients, what are you doing for the hour? I'm like, well, they're squatting and they're trying to lose weight. Like, I'm literally taking myself and trying to put it into another person. But it was that aspect. And then it was hearing from my family and just like the peanut gallery and saying, well, you're training females. Once they know that you're with a girl, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot, was the exact words, you're gonna make your business go to ashes. Everything you've built up, all the international stuff, you're destroying it with your own hands because you choose to be with a female and not with a male. And I was like, I just don't care. Like, I'm just gonna do whatever I wanna do. But then that played on me. So
it's hard to turn it off.
It's very hard.
Everybody says, other people's opinions shouldn't matter. But other people's opinions do matter because you're also trying to run a business.
Yeah.
And you also don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
But you're feeling that you're responsible for everybody else's feelings.
Exactly.
And they have to understand that how they perceive things is up to them. They don't need to take you on and lay that guilt on you. You got enough going on.
And my biggest thing was, well, what about Jillian Michaels, the biggest name in one of the fitness business? She's married to a female and they have a child together.
Yeah.
So like that was an example that I always try to pull out, but it was always like hitting heads. But then eventually that started to change, and as it just grew, and then after the 3 years of putting myself in business, like out of business rather, I'm like, I'm gonna pick up where I left off. And then all of a sudden I became unapologetic. I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, when I want to. If you don't like it, bye. So that was kind of like my thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you've transitioned from this, and this is you've been through a lot.
It's been a roller coaster.
But I'm sure now the roller coaster is changed in opinions. Like, I'm sure the first 15 years of your life you're holding on to the handle and you want to sit at the back, and now you're at the front with your hands up.
Yeah,
right?
That's really good.
Which is a great spot to be. So let's take a look at that now. So how is life for you now? What's it like? Who are the people you're meeting? Who are you finding that you're inspiring? Because you've got clients. Where do the clients come from?
They come from everywhere, actually. I had one girl send me a message who I met. Actually, sorry, I never actually met her. When I did my Montreal show and qualified for Vegas, I was the first person to step on stage for that division with that company in the transformation division.
Yeah.
So as soon as that blew up, I got like 5,000 shares or something off of it from that company.
Okay.
And then all the people that had registered, and they registered because they saw me on stage, they added me to Facebook. So I have one client who's actually in the States. I believe she's in Atlanta. And she contacted me for coaching. I have people that are local, the GTA, of course, Barrie, Newmarket.
And what are these challenges like for these people? What do you find is the biggest challenge that's coming to you? Are these people that are obese, or are they just simply trying to change their diet, or what is it, or is it very complex?
It depends, because I specialize with extreme weight loss. So a lot of it is mental. They are mental challenges. So it's people ask me a lot of questions like, what did you do for this? How do you get over these things? So a lot of it is coaching, but it's also diet and meal plan related. I had a girl start 2 weeks ago and she's already down over 10 pounds. She's changed her life. She's like, even in 2 weeks, the amount of energy, she's like, I didn't even want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
She's like, but now I wake up and I'm excited for the day. And she's like, that's something that you taught in me and you've duplicated in me. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But most of my clients have to lose between 50 to 250 pounds. I have people that come and ask me, like, I just want to put on muscle, or I just want to lose like 10 pounds. And they come to me because they know my story and they like me and they feel comfortable. Because even people that are smaller, some of them are still insecure, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and they may be intimidated by somebody else, but I say to them, like, you know what, I have a really good friend. This person never judged me. This is a great trainer. Go speak to them because they are better qualified. That's not where I'm qualified.
And
I'm
that's
not
honest.
I'm not going to train someone for a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
If you want to lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 200 pounds, I'm your girl. I know the science behind it. I've studied it. I've spent the last 32 years of my life going through the motions to be exactly where I am right now. So.
And that, again, makes you empathetic and honest when you're helping people, because you can be honest and say, look, here's what the struggles were for me. You know, this is what it was like kicking sugar, or realizing that muscle weighs more than fat, so losing 10 pounds of fat may not look like much at the beginning, but 10 pounds of muscle to lose is a big difference.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And putting muscle on, when people have a hard time understanding that when they start to plateau, when they've lost a lot of weight and now they're putting on muscle, and they're like, oh, I only lost a pound this week. Yeah, but you put on 4 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, look how your pants are fitting different. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if you could pick one thing that would be your words of encouragement for anybody who is going through the struggles, you know, wanting to get into weight loss, or have just been shamed, and how to get through it, what would be your inspiration? And let's hear it.
My favorite thing that I always say is divide and conquer. If you can conquer this, you can conquer anything. And putting this first, if someone were to put themselves first, that's all that matters. I mean, you never want to hurt anybody, but you have to come first. What you want to do, what you eat is up to you. Who you date, whatever you do, that's all up to just you.
Yeah.
And if people don't come around, too bad. There's 50,000, I always say this, there's 50,000 other people in this world. You don't need the people that are negative or gonna, like, I have more supporters than I do people that are negative. So that's something now that I'm focusing on differently than in the 3-year lull. My supporters are up here. So if you have something bad to say, because I'm gonna focus over here with these people.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because when people go through these difficult times, there's a difference between your head and your heart when it comes to having them broken. So as you grow, and you're 15 years old and you've had your heart broken, how many times of being shamed and all these awful things, and moving through life, you've had your heart broken. Hearts heal. Heads take longer.
Oh yeah,
right?
Totally.
So when people get into your head and make you feel that that is all you'll be, and all you'll ever be is big, and all you'll ever be is overweight, that's where the biggest challenge is. So how do you find you get into people's heads and communicate with them and talk to them about that? Because that's a big deal when you're dealing with weight training. It's not just the weights and the food. I
always tell people, like, to do the Sasha Fierce. So the story about Beyonce, she has stage fright, and she's actually not internally the performer that she is externally. And that's something that she's shown, and she has her Sasha Fierce. So it's an alter ego.
Yeah.
So to me, when I was in St. Lucia, and I was trying to do like these push-ups for my knees, I couldn't even do one. I'm like, dear God, I'm like, I'm a personal trainer. I'm gonna work out like a personal trainer. So in my head, personal trainers, like, even though I didn't ever wanted to be a trainer at the time, they were the highest of fitness in my brain. So I'm like, I'm gonna work out. I am not who I am someone different. So then I was able to pull out, there's always something deeper that you can pull out, especially when you're doing performance. So that's one thing that I learned how to do, is pull out the Sasha Fierce in me and use my alter ego to push me forward.
Well, that's good to have that, because you got to have sort of a reserve, right? So you dig into that reserve to make you into something stronger. Because one of the toughest things is people like to compare. And this is only a recent realization that I've done, which is probably why I've removed about 3,000 plus people off my Facebook. People I don't know and don't really care. Is you will find people to compare to. And always. Comparison equals depression. It really does. You can either compare in a healthy way or unhealthy way. Healthy is you compare because you want to be like a trainer. And unhealthy is, oh, I can't do anything. I can't be like that. And that's tough. So I want people to know that they can be like you and can, get to know you. So thank you for letting us get to know you today, Christina. This has been a really awesome day.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks.